Now, just imagine you're bringing your airliner in foul weather, and suddenly the onboard computer in front of you freezes, and there's that spinning hourglass going on. Well, thankfully, that nightmare doesn't happen. And that's because the operating systems on aircraft are very different from the Windows or the iOS systems that we might use here on the ground. And that's thanks to companies like Mannarino Systems and Software, whose president and founder, John Mannarino, is with us now. John, welcome. Very quickly, give us an introduction to your company. Where did it all come from, and what is it you do?
Sure. Thanks, Alan. Nice to be here with you today. Mannarino Systems and Software was founded 20 years ago by yours truly. I'm a systems engineer at heart, and we've been working on safety critical, mainly airborne systems and software for 20 years now, developing software for all kinds of applications on an aircraft, from engine controls to flight management systems and aerial refueling systems.
So, with these systems that you produce, with the operating system, what is different to the ones that we would use on the ground?
Well, the main difference is the operating systems on airborne systems generally are safety critical. There are lives at stake in the functionality that the software is performing. Therefore, that software has to be deterministic and always do the right thing, always do the safe thing, accomplish its function, its intended function as intended, and never misbehave, never slow down, never halt, never freeze. Always keep working to ensure the mission is succeeded, and that if there are unexpected events, that the software always handles it in a safe manner, which is very different than a PC or a laptop or your iPad, where at times we've all experienced a freeze, a delay, an application not working. That does not happen on aircraft.
And that always happens, John, does it?
It always happens. The software is developed with an engineering discipline and process discipline that is way above anything you would develop on a Windows type application, a PC type application. It's an extremely rigorous process that takes tremendous man hours and engineering effort and analysis and testing to make sure the software will always do the right thing. So it's a very expensive proposition to develop airborne software to that level.
So is the operating system, is it always aviation specific, or is this the stuff that they can also use in automotive and so on?
No, for sure. I mean, as you just alluded to in your intro, we have operating systems on our laptops. We have them on our PCs. They're used on any computational device where you have a microprocessor, a brain trying to accomplish a function. There are different levels of safety criticality, and there are different markets. Automotive is a market. It's actually one of the largest markets, obviously with the amount of cars out there. And operating systems are used extensively on cars in different subsystems to accomplish functions. There's also the medical device industry. There's all sorts of industries, industrial as well, that consider themselves safety critical. When we talk about aerospace, however, we talk about, people's lives literally being at stake, and you cannot reboot a computer.
Now, you're talking at Mannarino about specifically designing uniquely for aerospace, because it's quite expensive, isn't it, as well? So is that different, that you're doing it purely for aerospace?
It is different, and we are doing it specifically for aerospace. The company, over its 20 years, and even before I founded Mannarino, it's all aerospace pedigree that we had. So we know what's required in the aerospace industry in terms of functionality and safety and certification. We're well aware of the costs involved and trying to implement something for aerospace that is cost efficient as well. And we have targeted a design specifically for aerospace, meeting all the certification standards with a clean sheet design for optimum efficiency and for flexibility, so that we can tailor the operating system to different clients' needs. Not every system on an aircraft has the same level of criticality. an engine control, a flight control is the highest level criticality. There are other systems which are lower level. So there are different design assurance levels attached to pieces of software and different amount of work you need to do to get that software approved. So we are targeting our operating system specifically for aerospace and for all the variation of criticality you can achieve on an aerospace system.
So, John, who are your customers? Is it the airlines? Is it the airframers? Or is it the guys that write software for the avionics companies?
Essentially, our clients would be, they are varied. We can work with COTS hardware suppliers that are selling into aerospace and that provide hardware and then allow on their customers to write software. Our customers are also the ones who generate line replaceable unit items, an individual piece of electronics that does a very specific function, and of which there are many in the industry. And our clients are also the ones producing the most modern types of avionics, the integrated modular avionics, where they try and build multiple functions all in the same piece of hardware with proper partitioning of all the different applications to make sure they each work properly. So we will essentially serve all the clients who are buying or generating electronic hardware and writing software to perform functions on an aircraft.
Now, John, you mentioned earlier about the high cost of aerospace computing, really. And I've seen that you're talking about reducing costs by up to 50%. Now, that is really disruption, isn't it, for the industry? How are you going to achieve that?
It's absolute disruption, Alan, and that's exactly what we were aiming at. We have 20 years of experience doing this. During our 20 years, we've been a service company. So we have been developing software for our customers that perform all these functions, but doing that as a service. So we have learned over the 20 years about what it takes for the operating system and any piece of software to be designed efficiently. We have a great pedigree to do that. But we needed even more than that to get disruptive about this. We have signed an agreement with Lockheed Martin, one of the biggest aerospace defense technology companies in the world. This was an offset-related agreement. And essentially, through that agreement, we are able to fund the development of our operating system. And there are offset credits that Lockheed Martin obtains for this. So we have a unique situation where we have a good group of engineers with 20 years experience developing software that now have the financial ability to develop a product and put it on the market without having to recoup all of our initial investment costs. The combination of those two things allows us to just completely turn this market on its ear and come in with a very affordable offering. We're very excited about it.
Well, let's talk about software now. What do you think the aerospace and defense companies are struggling with as far as software goes?
It's one thing, Alan, it's cost. The amount of software on an aircraft has been growing exponentially for decades. There is more and more and more software on aircraft, and software projects have gotten larger and larger. The cost to develop aerospace software with the level of rigor required has just posed a tremendous problem to all of my customers, to anyone developing software for the aerospace industry. They are searching for solutions, and they need to get their software costs lower to make their business functional.
And so, as I understand it, you work with other software designers. I know you design your own software, but you work with others as well and get design approval, product development, certification. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. I mean, we've worked with clients in a whole variety of fashions over our 20 years. Generally, with software, for a particular system on an aircraft, there's many layers of software that are required to actually get the computer to do the right thing and control the aircraft the right way. There's a bootloader software, which is very low level, that boots up the computer. There's an operating system, which really is the brain that controls all the applications and interfaces with the hardware to do the low-level processing required. And then there's higher-level software, application software, that knows how to control an engine, knows how to transfer fuel, knows how to perform navigation functions. There's many different knowledges, specialties required to develop aerospace systems and software. So we've worked at all levels, Alan. We've developed systems that control engine thrust on an aircraft where lives are at stake. We've developed software that does operating system. We've done bootloaders as well. It's a whole collection of expertise required to do this. What we're doing with the RTOS is we've recognized, as other folks have, that the RTOS is a core component of every avionics piece of equipment. You always need an operating system, just like you always need one for your PC or for your iPad or for your phone. Everything needs an operating system, which is fantastic from a manufacturer's perspective. I can sell it to many folks. But it's a core element, and it's always a required element. So we are trying to take that core element and take all our experience and our financial advantage and just give a revolutionary product to the industry. The industry is tired of paying way too much for an operating system. They are tired of being neglected as well. Aerospace, as we were talking about earlier, is a critical industry, but it's not the highest volume industry for electronics and for software. So the current market leaders in these areas for RTOS sometimes don't treat their aerospace customers the way aerospace customers deserve to be treated. We are going to take care of that as well. At Mannarino, we've been servicing customers for 20 years. There's nothing like servicing a customer like being a service provider. It's in our DNA. It's in our blood. We work closely with them. We work closely with their application software developers. We work closely with their systems engineers. We work closely with their program management. We form a united team with them to get their product to cert. And we're going to bring all of that to our customers and really, hopefully, not only cut costs, cut schedule, just bring a whole breath of fresh air to this industry in terms of aerospace software and costs and certification.
And John, you talk RTOS, and I think, just for clarification, that's real-time operating systems.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Alan. I mean, again, on a PC, things seem to be working in so-called real time, but every once in a while you have a glitch and you're waiting, or you have to restart something. You don't restart something on an aircraft. When you're taking off on a runway of fixed length and you have to clear obstacles, everything has to work in real time, deterministically, all the time. And that is what our RTOS does, and that is what is required for aerospace.
Just must say, John, it's kind of amazing what goes on and the growing software requirements. Of course, as we move to a more electronic aircraft, as we're talking about, it's fascinating, and the fact you can bring those things through to certification for aircraft around the world and make them work safely and cost effectively, which is something I know the industry really demands. John, thank you so much for sharing the Mannarino story with us. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
the software aerospace industry is a good place to be. There's opportunity there. There are challenges there. We've been a service company for our whole existence, 20 years, developing safety-critical software systems, and we've been happily doing that for 20 years, but we wanted to have that feeling of having our own product. We've identified the need in the industry for a commercial off-the-shelf operating system that is affordable and comes with great customer service. We had all the ingredients to do this. Getting Lockheed Martin's backing for doing the M-RTOS has been a tremendous boost for the company.
I was sitting in my office when I got the news about M-RTOS. John walked in and said, "We're in." I said, "We're in what?" He goes, "We're in the M-RTOS business." And that's when it took off and it just started to snowball, and we brought in key people.
We've been able to build a modern operating system which is very performant. On all key benchmarks, like we're exceeding our competitors. We're getting close to 1 microsecond for a process switch. That's one key number that allows our customer to take full advantage of their hardware. On a travaillé très fort pour que les choses restent le plus intuitives et le plus simple possible. Et les premiers retours qu'on a, c'est très positif.
Mannarino was the first service-based company to become a delegated organization by Transport Canada. There is no other company that had authorization from Transport Canada as a service-based company. The general certification for airborne products requires a lot of diligence, a lot of rigor.
We understand technologically what it takes to build that product. We have all the expertise that we need, both technically, software-wise, system-wise, and certification-wise, but you can't go forward charging high prices. We base price on incremental costs. From subscription perspective, we tried to take all the complexities out of the discussion. It's a subscription-based model, so you basically pay for what you need. One of the other big differences is how you pay based on your design assurance levels. So the higher levels obviously require more work. That's a higher price than something that's much lower level that requires less work.
We know what it's like to service a customer and make them happy with the product.
We're going to be there behind you to help you integrate the M-RTOS. So service-based ideas that Mannarino has built over the last 20 years are really not going away. It's going to be a fundamental part of the M-RTOS user experience.
Okay, good day everyone, and welcome to the M-RTOS product brief. I'll just wait a minute or so until everyone gets settled in. I hope everyone enjoyed the launch video. I know I certainly did. It was very exciting. Just a quick shout out to our graphic designer Alexandra and our marketing team at Sid Lee, who were a big help in the creation of the video. Quick note that the webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website. Visit mss.ca for a link to view the recorded event. So welcome again to everyone. Let's get started. Okay, so here's the agenda that we'll go through today. We'll go through a brief introduction to Mannarino, then tackle the meat of the presentation, which is the M-RTOS product overview. Hopefully that's why you're here. And then we can take any questions at the end if time permits. As a reminder, the Q&A chat box is open, so if you just log your questions there, we'll try to get to as many as we can by the end of the presentation. Please preface your question with the word question, all caps. And if we run out of time, don't worry. We will respond to your questions offline using the email address that you used to register for this event. Again, my name is Mario Jacobelli, Senior Product Manager at Mannarino Systems&Software. I started my career 25 years ago at Pratt & Whitney, Canada, developing control system software for small gas turbine engines. And I moved over to Mannarino 17 years ago. I've been involved with software for my entire career in various capacities, from designing and implementing low-level software right up to my current role. I'll be doing all the presenting today, but this company and our product is backed by great leadership in John and the super technical team. These are just some of the key people that made M-RTOS a reality. Feel free to reach out at any time. We're always interested to talk about M-RTOS, or software and systems development and certification. So who is Mannarino? Mannarino is an engineering services firm specialized in development of airborne safety critical software and airborne electronic hardware, established in 1999. For over 20 years, we've provided engineering services to many safety critical industries, but our initial and still main industry is aerospace and defense. In addition to our 20 years of development expertise, we are, as well to our knowledge, the first services-based company worldwide to receive delegation by a national certification authority authorizing us to actually approve airborne software and electronic hardware. This effectively makes Mannarino a one-stop shop for planning, development, and approving safety-critical airborne software. We're a world-class engineering company covering development and certification of airborne software. And we'll say, okay, let's look at the product overview. It's hopefully the reason why you all came here. So from aerospace perspective, we have an aircraft with several dozen, if not 100, different systems. Some federated or standalone, and some fully integrated. The RTOS comes in when we look at the architecture of any one of these systems. We can make the parallel to your PC. At the lowest level, there's the hardware microprocessor in gray and blue. Installed on that is the real-time operating system in baby blue. And if we go back to your PC, this would be like your Windows or iOS. To interface the hardware with the RTOS are the BSPs, or the board support packages, and various other device drivers, and this is in brown. That could be a communication card or an external memory chip. And on your PC, that would be like your mouse or your printer drivers. And running on top of all this would be the application software in green, like an engine controller or an avionics display software. And again, on your PC, that would be like Microsoft Word or Adobe Acrobat. So the RTOS is essentially the glue between the physical hardware and the application software, similar to the way the iOS manages the hardware, peripherals, and any installed software. And every system on an aircraft has at least one RTOS, or some sort of executive. And that applies not only to the civil market, but the very similar systems exist on military aircraft, and also on emerging markets like RPAS and eVTOL. So what are the main pain points that we've experienced that convinced us to develop the M-RTOS? So the first one is that development projects are really struggling with high costs. The growth in the volume of software on an aircraft over the past 25 years has been tremendous. Since the 70s, the size of aerospace software has doubled every 4 or 5 years. And if we look at the red line for a Boeing commercial aircraft from the 80s, it had about 400,000 lines of code. In the early 2000s, that lines of code ballooned to about 14 million. So on a log base 2 scale, which is what we show here, over the 25-year period, the lines of code doubled every 5 years. Further, the complexities of the technologies required to develop the software has also been increasing at a very high rate. The effort required to ensure software is safe and meets all the applicable certification regulations can be quite daunting to engineers and technical managers. And all of this has made it very difficult for aerospace companies to contain their software costs over the past few decades. The second is the fact that existing COTS RTOSs are really unaffordable. Industry is looking for COTS software that can lower their development costs. And the most typical use of the COTS software for aerospace is the RTOS. So existing certifiable RTOSs are still relatively expensive. Graphically, we see the distribution of your lifetime cost of ownership for the current COTS RTOS market leaders. For a typical development program, which lasts about 3 years for the development and then 15 years of production run. So when you add that all up, we're talking about $3 to $4 million for a project that is the highest design assurance level. Finally, it's the poor customer support. For that amount of money, one would expect a gold standard in customer support. But we've found in dealing with the market leaders that this is rarely the case. The aerospace market is being ignored in favor of faster growing, higher volume markets like automotive, making it difficult to get the needed support. So you pay a lot of money and suffer from poor customer service. And the data shows us the same thing. Analyzing the latest 2018 market data, the aerospace and defense market in blue is showing slow growth and has probably plateaued, but the automotive market in red is showing higher growth. In the near future, it's expected that there's going to be $50 million difference in the market potential between these two markets. The two M-RTOS market leaders also control almost 80% of the aerospace and defense market. And we believe increasing volumes in automotive are a factor in less attention being paid to the aerospace and defense sector. In our view, Mannarino has an opportunity to fill this service and support gap. So what's our response? Today, we're launching our own commercially available Mannarino real-time operating system, the M-RTOS. It's the affordable, safe, and flexible alternative with unparalleled customer support. It's a real-time operating system solution supporting multi-core processors with robust partitioning based on industry standard ARINC 653 and is certifiable to the highest industry standards. So for the rest of the presentation, we'll explore our unrivaled and flexible commercial terms, our technical superiority, certification peace of mind that comes with the product, and of course our unparalleled customer support. It's a completely different buying approach based on servicing customers' needs. M-RTOS is offered on a fixed annual subscription over an agreed time frame with no high front-loaded payments. The subscription time frame is flexible, anywhere from 1 to 7 years. This fixes your costs so you can plan your R&D efforts and control your overall program costs, minimizing the initial R&D spending to get your development program off the ground. M-RTOS pricing is based on microprocessor rather than end-use product. On the development side, all users get floating development licenses. We provide floating licenses to manage and assign as you see fit. When you get into production, there's no runtime license limitations and no periodic volume or shipment reports, and most importantly, no royalty payments. This fundamental change offers opportunities to leverage savings across multiple end-use products and even an entire product portfolio that uses the same microprocessor. This compounds savings even further. Mannarino's basic principle is pay only for what you need. Our pricing is scaled based on design assurance level, or DAL. Higher criticality levels mean more work, which drives a higher price. For M-RTOS, the reverse is also true. Lower criticality levels mean less work, which results in a lower M-RTOS price. Reduced cost, certifiable M-RTOS variants are specifically available for emerging industries such as RPAS and eVTOL. Discounts are also available for enterprise licensing with sub-licensing flexibility. Essentially, whatever your product's financial situation, whatever your team makeup and location, we have the tools to make it work. So decrease your RTOS cost of ownership by 50% or more with commercial flexibility to adapt to the way you want to conduct your business. Use these significant RTOS savings to stretch your R&D dollars. Graphical comparison shows a relative difference not only in what you pay, but also important in the timing of when you pay it. The time value of money has an important impact on finances. This shows for the same typical development program with 3 years of development and a 15-year production run, with M-RTOS you have no large upfront costs and predictable pricing for a fixed term, resulting in significant savings over the life of your product. Mannarino engineers have been developing fast and deterministic real-time executives for the aerospace industry for 20 years. 2 decades of developing safety-critical systems made us acutely aware of the friction points of using a COTS RTOS product. With M-RTOS, we leveraged all this expertise to create a real-time operating system that outperforms the market leaders on all key performance benchmarks. That's timing, memory, and overall performance. And when we talk about benchmarking, we're referring to an ARINC 653 benchmarking suite. It's an off-the-shelf open source benchmarking tool suite that supports RTOS timing characterization. And the benchmark was developed by Université Polytechnique in Montreal here and is available on their open source GitHub. So we designed the M-RTOS conscious of RTOS overhead because we recognize this will impact your overall product performance. We're talking about timing overhead. We gathered these metrics to characterize the computational costs associated with various RTOS APIs. And we know that these times are required to support certification and worst-case execution timing analysis for the system. And on the memory size, our small RTOS form minimizes RAM and ROM usage. We designed a product to reduce the RTOS execution time and reduce memory footprint, leaving room and time for application softwares to execute. Now let's explore some of these metrics. From the timing perspective, we have 2 key metrics. Process switch time, which is the time the RTOS takes to switch between processes within a given partition, and partition switch time, which is the time the RTOS takes to switch between partitions within a given system. This is an indication of the overhead associated with an RTOS and the time it needs to clean up after itself and prepare for the next set of tasks to be executed. We can see that the M-RTOS versus the market leader takes between 20 and 30% less time. Similarly, the memory metric represents the static size of the RTOS and how much physical space is required to embed the RTOS. Again, we see significant margin in that M-RTOS takes about 70% less memory, or about 3 times as small. So timing and memory margin translates into overall performance. For a typical set of applications running on a multi-core processor, 2 partitions with multiple processes within each partition, we see the M-RTOS has about between 40 and 50% margin, or essentially it's able to execute all the required tasks in about half the time of the competition. Quite significant from application developer and system developers, as it gives them the option to build larger, more powerful applications or keep the margin for future growth, ultimately extending the service life of the hardware. Mannarino expertise is industry recognized, and we've taken part in R&D projects with some of the world's largest aerospace corporations. Through these projects, we've gained significant expertise in developing operating system and application software for various airborne applications. These software applications were developed to all design assurance levels. Throughout that time, we worked with all major commercial RTOS products and also developed bare metal executives from scratch. We've gained skills in developing certifiable aerospace application software and the entire certification process, to the point where we're now providing industry training on behalf of RTCA on the 178C standard and its supplements. The relationship with RTCA to augment their training curriculum is a testament to Mannarino's expertise to manage a wide range of certification requirements that provides M-RTOS customization to meet unique customer needs. M-RTOS was crafted by aerospace engineers to support developers of complex aerospace applications. Starting from the blank sheet meant that we could focus on creating a modern operating system free of any legacy interfaces, code, or configuration files. No compromises to support legacy code from previous releases or older architectures. No adaptation layers between proprietary APIs and the ARINC 653 APIs. So let's bring back that high-level architecture diagram and see what this really means. The M-RTOS blank sheet was designed specifically to meet the ARINC 653 specification. ARINC 653 is the aerospace industry standard that defines the interfaces between the application software and the operating system. And if we look at the existing COTS RTOS architecture, we see a red legacy interface like POSIX or Unix or their own proprietary interface, resulting in a need for an adaptation layer to bridge the gap between the legacy interface and the ARINC 653 standard. This inherently brings inefficiencies as the same signal now needs to go across 2 layers. Being a new entrant to the market has actually proven advantageous for us. We benefit from a mature ARINC 653 specification, as well as recent technological advancements in the software industry. These have been instrumental to make sure both our product and the environment surrounding it allows M-RTOS to be adjusted to your specific needs. By building from the ground up with scalability and modularity in mind, M-RTOS supports processors ranging from small ARM-based microcontrollers to top-of-the-class communication processors. And for interfaces not covered by ARINC 653, we rely on open standards to improve portability. The result is a product that is fully compliant with the industry-leading standard for operating systems while being extremely flexible and portable. Let's look at an overview of the Mannarino integrated development environment, the Mannarino workbench. So we have a processor that's purchased, and then we spoke about the M-RTOS that's embedded on that processor. Now what about the environment? At Mannarino, we strongly believe that embedded software development shouldn't have to be complicated. Developers need an environment that facilitates their day-to-day activities. That's why we created the Mannarino Workbench, a complete integrated development environment with a modern web-based help system and role-based development approach structured to easily accommodate concurrent collaborative development with large distributed teams. But it also shows in the small details like our centralized error logging or the novel configuration system, which is validated at build time using our qualified configuration tool. The suite is made up of the Mannarino Architect, which is a GUI-based tool to configure the M-RTOS, the Mannarino Builder, which is an environment to build your application and report any build time errors, the Mannarino Configurator, which is a qualified tool with an enhanced set of checks to identify configuration issues to be resolved before building and integrating onto the platform. And finally, the Mannarino Tracer, which is a tracing tool that gives full visibility of the RTOS and the partition execution. The RTOS was developed by putting developers at the forefront of the product's design to maximize efficiency. Mannarino Workbench has been designed with a role-based M-RTOS configuration file architecture, allowing concurrent collaborative development with large distributed teams. This facilitates allocation of developers' activities, allowing to efficiently develop their part of the system. The M-RTOS Workbench tool suite provides a development environment to master the complexities of the ARINC 653 configuration task and minimize the developer's efforts with centralized XML configuration files edited using our intuitive GUI, configuration file validation at build time, resulting in earlier detection of anomalies. The environment allows detailed data collection that developers can transmit to Mannarino, our customer support engineering staff, to help resolve any issues. So we can provide demos of that environment so you can experience what we've been describing. Mannarino was built on developing safety-critical aerospace software for the highest criticality levels of DO 178C. The concept of certification delegation from a transport authority like Transport Canada, the FAA, or EASA to a company developing its own airworthy products is not novel. What is novel and innovative is the delegation to a services-based company that has no products. A company with its personnel and processes has to be robust and confident enough to walk into any company and have sufficient expertise to understand that product, its software, hardware, and overall aircraft system to be able to determine whether or not that product with its embedded software is airworthy. It takes years to develop that technical expertise, the ability to express that expertise, and have sufficient working relationship with the certification authority to gain their trust in granting delegation authority. Mannarino has done just that in becoming the first services-based company in Canada to obtain accreditation from Transport Canada, and the Mannarino DAO has had this delegation since 2016. Supporting the certification of aircraft systems is what the DAO does best. It was no different during the development of the M-RTOS. The Mannarino DAO, with its certification delegation, guided the product development. With the introduction of our new product, the M-RTOS, this Transport Canada delegation makes Mannarino the only COTS RTOS supplier with certification delegation. This reduces risk when you need to present to your cert authority. Certification peace of mind means the entire Mannarino DAO stands behind the M-RTOS, and we will stand behind you for your product certification. We deliver unparalleled customer support. It's a company philosophy and devotion built over 20 years to always do the right thing, never let a customer down, always deliver on a promise or contract, and truly service our customers and provide high value for their software engineering and certification needs. We focus on building relationships first by listening, then tailoring our service delivery to meet the goals, objectives, or requirements while dealing with any constraints. This hallmark of service and support success is a crucial element of the M-RTOS product offering and has been instrumental in how we position ourselves relative to industry competitors. Mannarino is truly the one-stop for all our customers' software needs. Our software development expertise and certification expertise brings a multitude of value-added options, including coupling the M-RTOS sale with other engineering services. Bundling the M-RTOS services and M-RTOS will result in the best technical solution with significant savings when compared to individually pricing and executing various software development tasks for a given project. We put that type of support behind the M-RTOS. We'll stand with you to ensure efficient and effective delivery of your products and be there for you to support these products over their useful life. So Mannarino is looking to revolutionize the way you buy COTS RTOS products with the launching of the M-RTOS. We offer the affordable, safe, and flexible alternative with unparalleled customer service. Join us to transform the market for RTOS and drive down the cost of software ownership. Okay, we've reached the end of the product information session. I hope you found it interesting. I definitely had a lot of fun giving the presentation. So again, if there's anything we can do for you, please contact me to set up a one-on-one discussion. So I think we have time for a few questions. So let me see what I can see in the Q&A chat window here. Okay, here's one. Please give more information about the IDE demo. Sure, the demos you're talking about are for the Mannarino Workbench. Yeah, so we have a remote demo environment and all the tools are already pre-installed. You just need to connect like a remote desktop session. So there's no need to install anything on your PC. So if you send me an email with the request for a demo, I can get the access set up and walk you through the tools and then, let you test drive at your own leisure. Okay, let's look for another one. Okay, here's one. You said that the price of the RTOS is based on microprocessor. Yes. Does it mean that if my company uses the same hardware on multiple projects, I won't have any additional RTOS costs after the first subscription? Absolutely. So this is one of the major compounding benefits of our incremental pricing approach. So as long as you use the same microprocessor, the initial subscription is still valid and no additional cost to support additional products that you create using the same microprocessor. Okay, let's find another question. So what if M-RTOS doesn't support the microprocessor we've selected? The short answer is we'll need to port to that new processor. It typically isn't an issue. Our engineering team is constantly evaluating and porting to new processors. So if you send me a request with the microprocessor you need support for, I can evaluate with the engineering team and see what it would take to port to that new processor. Okay, I think one more, we have time. What about multi-core microprocessors? Yes, the million-dollar question. We've been engaged with several universities researching how resolving items that are outlined in the CAS 32A paper would impact an airborne system that's executing software on a multi-core processor. And we also have an agreement in place with a major avionics OEM to certify a multi-core solution on their platform. So definitely, look for more news to come on that front. Okay, so I am getting an indication that I am out of time. So for all of the questions, don't worry, I'll respond offline. Just a quick note that the webinar was recorded and it's going to be available on our website. Just go to visit mss.ca and you should see the link to view the recorded event. So again, thanks everyone for attending. Stay safe. Bye-bye.